delivered a lecture on center-right ideologies and economic policy in post-COVID Ghana. In October, in recognition of World Eyesight Day, Dr. Issa Imoro, who is an optometrist and a fellow of the Institute, delivered a lecture on the dangers of glaucoma. The structure of the lecture series is to focus on citizen-centric issues of national importance for discussion between policymakers and citizenry. Invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in November this year, the Vice President of Ghana, His Excellency Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, in his lecture, Transforming the Economy Through Digitalization, spoke at great length on how digitalization is addressing issues in healthcare delivery, domestic revenue mobilization, efficient public service delivery, and public security and safety, among others. Today, we join this conversation by focusing on education. Today, we will hear a distinguished gentleman tell about e-learning in Ghana and the fourth industrial revolution. Today's lecture focuses on how we can leverage on the fourth revolution, facilitated by technology, to leapfrog on our education to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal, education by 2020, so no one is left behind. Well, today is increasingly getting connected, and technology continues to shape the area of our lives. In this era of transformation, education technology is enhancing the traditional classroom experience to shape delivery for better outcomes. We have amongst us today officials from the ministry, distinguished faculty from University of Ghana, teachers, students, technology giants, makers, CSOs, and NGOs, and we all will witness this lecture. It promises to be very informative and stimulating. It is the belief of us at Danquah Institute that this will be the beginning of a conversation that will lead to positive outcomes for the ultimate good of the Ghanaian people. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, I warmly welcome you all to the ISA Conference Center and to the DI Quarterly Lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director of the Danquah Institute. Indeed, it promises to be an exciting interaction, and I have the honor to introduce the resource person for this morning's lecture. Our resource person is an award winner of the Ghana Professional. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Insurance Studies from the London Metropolitan University, formerly London Guildhall University. He's a chartered insurance practitioner of the Chartered Insurance Institute, and accredited by Business Link and an assessor for Small Firms Enterprise Development Initiative. And he holds an MBA from the Durham Business School in the UK. He started his career in insurance and risk management and had stints with Aon Risk Services, Miller Insurance Group, and Norwich Union, all in the United Kingdom. Currently, our speaker is a board member of Coronation Insurance PLC, formerly Wapik Insurance. He's currently the chairman and managing partner for Hatchery Positivo BGH, a technology firm with interest in edutech and health solutions based out of Accra, Ghana. He and his partners developed the National Digital Literacy Project in partnership with the Ministry of Education, Ghana Education Service, and Positivo BGH. The project is to roll out digitalization of schools across Ghana and establishment of assembly or manufacturing of devices under the One District, One Factory. As a lead consultant at Alexandra Rowing Consulting, he developed Junior Aspire, a co-curricular program on entrepreneurship, development, coding, and robotics for youth between the ages of 8 and 15 years. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Richard Osei Penny.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Danquah Institute, for the privilege and opportunity to share some ideas on e-learning and digitalization, education 4.0, and industry 4.0. Now I'm being asked to deliver a lecture in 45 minutes, which usually takes a whole semester. I recently did something with the Joy FM master class, and the same subject took us 3 weeks. So I'm going to do my best to squeeze this into 45 minutes. So thank you very much for coming to continue the conversation on education. I usually start with this question: what would you do if you woke up one morning and your job had been replaced by an algorithm? Let's hold that thought. So I'm going to run through quickly the economics of COVID. I'll introduce, as we go along, I think I got my thing over there. As we go along, I will introduce you to Tessa, a 2-year-old I came across in Virginia. I'll talk briefly about the early childhood development, basic schools, our human capital index, tertiary TVET, e-learning in universities, adult education, second chance initiatives, and all these underpinned by technology. So technology is fast transforming every sphere of our existence. Education is no exception. And integrating technology in education offers unlimited opportunities for the development of human capital. Adoption and application of educational technologies are not without barriers. Nonetheless, the barriers also serve as challenges to overcome and unleash the full potential to catalyze equal access and opportunities for all. The world today is increasingly getting connected, and technology continues to shape every area of our lives. In this era of transformation, education technology is disrupting the classroom experience to shape delivery in the 21st century for better outcomes. Now, for developing countries like Ghana, constrained especially by infrastructural challenges, the integration of technology in education, even though an uphill task, presents opportunities to refocus investment, design, and equitably deploy solutions for inclusivity. In the fourth industrial revolution, the world has gravitated towards the integration of technology to create new knowledge. Countries ignore the digitalization wave and emerging trends in education at their own peril. Hence, it's important to consider integrated strategies to accelerate progress in nurturing competitive human capital development, which is a very crucial theme. According to data from GS, there are currently over 20,000 public schools. Basic schools are currently defined to include primary, junior high, and senior high schools. The Ghana National Council of Private Schools estimates the number of private schools to be circa 12,000 schools. Now we know how pandemic further exacerbated already existing barriers in accessing quality education. According to UNICEF, the top 4 skills needed to succeed in the world today and tomorrow will be complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and people management. Integrated approaches involve promoting child-friendly school models with student-centric approaches to incentivize participation. To stimulate innovation education systems, teaching and learning curricula must be updated and culturally relevant to prepare children for today's jobs and future needs. Now, the factors at play in the changing nature of work: widespread automation, disrupting industries and creating new ones. Now, where automation is disrupting industries, innovation is also creating new ones. Automation is disrupting industries, making certain people lose their jobs. Innovation is creating more jobs. New technologies are transforming day-to-day life and creating new lines of business. Platforms are enabling firms to enter markets without physically being present. They exercise outsized influence and grow without vertically integrating. Now, if you consider one of Chinese companies, I think Taobao, it took them 15 years to get to $1 trillion in revenue, compared to a company like Walmart and IKEA, which took 70 years. Artificial intelligence and machine learning have become new production methods. There's going to be less and less demand for low-skilled labor. There will be high demand for advanced cognitive skills, social behavior, and skill combinations associated with greater adaptability. I want to talk briefly about early childhood development. My talk is not just focusing on Ghana, but looking at it from a global, fused with local perspective. So we're talking about Ghana, we're looking at Africa, we're looking at best practice globally. Globally, some 250 million children under the age of 5 are at the risk of not reaching their development potential in low and middle income countries because of stunting or extreme poverty. Funny enough, on my way here, listening to CTFM, there was a professor of nutrition talking about Ghana making strides to reduce stunting in the environment. There are some 260 million people ages 15 to 24 who are out of school and out of work. Despite historically poverty, life is that high quality education for this. The brain architecture is formed between the ages of 0 to 5, and the brain's ability to absorb learning is much stronger. If the right investments are made at this age, the brain gets very strong foundations in its ability to learn. Early childhood investments are investments in the child's ability to learn, learning how to learn. It enables a child to be better at acquiring skills, not complicated throughout their life. Now, from the 0 to 3 years phase, this is when a child needs good investments in health, nutrition, and stimulation. 3 years old, it's important for children to learn how to socialize and engage in play-based learning activity. This can be through good quality informal or formal preschools. Let me touch briefly on the Human Capital Index. The index looks at health and education data for a country and calculates how much her generation may fall short of achieving full potential. It combines 5 carefully selected indicators of health and education, chosen because global research has linked them directly to productivity. So the child survival, the school environment, quality of learning, healthy growth, adult survival. The index then calculates a single value between 0 and 1, and based on how much each indicator contributes to productivity as an adult. Now, what does this all mean? Survival. Will a child live long? How long will he or she stay? Will the child learn to read and write fluently? Will the child become confident in math, science, and problem solving? Will the child be prepared for university? Will the child grow up in a healthy and safe environment? Will the child receive the food, healthcare, and family support they need to grow strong and smart? And for each country, the Human Capital Index tells a story about what the future of a generation will be compared to and what it could be. If a country has an index value of, say, 0.6, this means as they grow up, the productivity of that generation in the workforce will be about 60% of what it could be if they had benefited from complete education and good health. Business as usual is costing that particular country 40% of its income in the long run. Nurturing human capital and that of all children will fuel the prosperity of their generation and of the global economy. That's why building human capital is a project not just for Ghana, but for the whole world. When I look at the Ghana Human Capital Index, it straddles between 0.5 to 0.4 to 0.5, depending on gender. Which means between 40 to 50% of our productivity could benefit from complete education and good health. For a conversation like this, we will have to have several deep dives. But touching on tertiary, for instance, in a number of surveys, employers insist they want beginning employees who possess the full array of written and verbal communication, project management and collaboration skills across different skill levels, cultural backgrounds and languages. That again is the territory of humanity. So as we say, it is in our mission statements. Consider TVETs. The primary objective of TVETs is the acquisition of employable skills for the world of work. Without job-related skills, young people and adults cannot benefit from employment opportunities that offer a decent income. The large numbers of young people who are not in education, employment or training is not only an indictment on the efficiency of the national education and training systems, but also a national security concern. Youth unemployment is a major concern of many African governments. On the streets of major African cities, an increasing population of out-of-school youth and adults compete dangerously for space in between moving vehicles as street vendors. According to the Africa Progress Panel, there are about 173 million Africans between the ages of 15 and 24 years, most of whom have entered the world of work from childhood with limited education and skills for decent employment and jobs. Every year, 8 million to 10 million poorly skilled young Africans make the difficult transition from school to the labor market, where they end up in insecure and sometimes hazardous employment with no prospect of further education or developing their skills. As the world enters the fourth industrial age, with a transition from traditional skills-based jobs to jobs meeting the demands of the digital economy, it has been imperative for us to rethink technical and vocational skills as an employable skill for the new digital economy, and possibly explore ways of fusing entrepreneurship into the curriculum. We envisage a new concept of establishing maker spaces in technical and vocational schools across the country, introducing both resources and knowledge of digital fabrication and manufacturing to help train and build the capacity of the students to meet the jobs demands of the fourth industrial digital economy. Makerspace provide hands-on creative ways to encourage students to learn new skills, design, experiment, build and invent as they deeply engage in science, engineering and tinkering. Targeted skills to acquire from a makerspace include 3D modeling and 3D printing, CNC milling, the Internet of Things, laser cutting, microcontroller programming, Arduino and Raspberry Pi, virtual and augmented reality. Earlier on, there was a video showing of AI and the virtual reality earlier on. Web and mobile app development, fabrication, robotics, etc. By building technical capacity for the new market demand of the digital economy of the fourth industrial age, the system helps to reduce issues of unemployment as a result of matching skills to industry demand. This also creates jobs through digital entrepreneurship. I've in the last few weeks been sitting on different panels. I've heard the Minister of Education announce 1 billion CD investment in technical education. I've also come across lots of investment from GIZ and other stakeholders in supporting the so hopefully we should be seeing the fruits of that emerging in the years to come. E-learning in universities. Let's reimagine a university. If you talk about omni-channel education, consider Amazon, a purely online company. They take over a purely in-person company. Position foods as the future of retail as an omni-channel business. Omni-channel simply means that some people will shop completely online, some people will shop completely in person, while some will blend with the digital in-person channels, where one might shop online but pick it up in the store, or one might shop in the store, open a social, stay inside, look around and see if it looks good, then go back at an online site. Different blends of online. Education will become modular. Education will become omnichannel, and education will become lifelong. Lifelong learning doesn't stop when you complete your bachelor's or master's. Learning continues through life, and technology allows this to happen. Consider micro-masters, for instance. There are corporate partnerships with different companies, as an example, endorsing cybersecurity programs on a channel like EDX. This idea can be replicated with corporates and universities. Is it possible, for example, to create a community of learners who learn continuously over, say, 5 years? Learning doesn't become episodic, where if you're not able to finish the course, that is it. You've got to come back and start all over again. Meaningful lifelong learning over 5 years gives individuals who move away from episodic learning to a system where learners can keep coming back for more content to develop a portfolio of credentials to show their achievements. A recent early phase of massive open online courses such as EDX, founded by Harvard and MIT, has a total of about 2,900 plus online courses. There are online spaces like Udemy and Skillshare, together with online learning management systems like Teachable and Kajabi. Let me touch briefly on adult education, the Second Chance Initiative. The Future of Work Africa deals with the subject on adult education and recommends an approach. In most countries, a segment of the adult population, due to the lack of access, never acquired any education or dropped out early, or the quality of the education they received was below par. Hence, they have ended up with little or no foundational skills. The recommendation is to provide them a second opportunity to acquire those basic digital skills. Now, due to the unique nature of this segment, this support must be delivered with due diligence, particularly in building adult skills to adjust, adapt, and fit into the changing nature of work. Beyond providing education that builds foundational skills, special educational programs offered should include customized pedagogies that consider the specific constraints these adults face and that link learning to employment opportunities. Adults learn different. They learn differently from how a primary student learn. And this is where a GIFEX Center, for instance, comes in. In the last few years, stakeholders in the Ghanaian ecosystem have been working constantly towards the implementation and delivery of digital tools and ICT learning. The GIFEC initiative for the ICT community centers has deployed around 250 hubs where people of different ages and backgrounds can have access to ICT equipment and training at different levels. In 2021, after an assessment was conducted, the findings were that around 60% of them were not operational or needed further upgrades to make them fit for purpose. Investing in the provision of additional types of ICT and digital skills training programs could provide these hubs with a timely opportunity to leverage the digital economy or ecosystem. Ghana as a nation or any local area can go further than just supplying traditional educational or ICT hubs to gain some demographic dividend. As the pandemic started raging across, we turned to digital technologies to ride out the storm. Overnight, virtual became the new normal, and in some spaces, continues to be so. From working to learning or even socializing, DJ Fisho comes to mind, holding virtual sessions every Sunday, continues to do that. Most people are essentially living a virtual life in more ways than we could have imagined about 18 months ago. Access remains the main impediment. So, from a survey which interviewed about 5,000 people from diverse backgrounds and geographies, it spoke about the cost, complexity, digital skills, and a perceived lack of interest keeping people offline. Being offline has significant social and economic implications, even more intensified by the pandemic. Now, to close the digital access gap, let me move on to talk about the National Digital Literacy Project. The Ghana Beyond Aid Charter and Strategy document describes a core focus on ICT applications, the digital economy, that take advantage of the rising level of education of our youth. It also states that Ghana will be an active player in ICT and in the fourth industrial revolution. It states that by 2028, Ghana would have leveraged its abundant human talent to become a leader, at least in Africa, in the digital economy. It would have created a technology subsector that produces innovative application software, generating productive employment with high incomes for educated youth, providing solutions for technological leapfrogging in many areas of the economy, and also contributing to services exports such as business process outsourcing and software exports. His Excellency the President Nana Akufo-Addo, acting through the Ministry of Education, under the leadership of Dr. Yao Edichum, the Honorable Minister of Education, the National Digital Literacy Project is a project born out of the Government of Ghana's vision to ensure every pupil in Ghana is adequately prepared for the global digital economy and the transformation of Ghana to align learning with the dynamics and dictates of the fourth industrial revolution. The project is targeted at teachers and learners in all public primary schools and secondary schools in Ghana, and will make it possible for all pupils to have access to digital technology and communication tools for learning. This project, led by the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service, will also empower teachers to create and deliver learning content using digital technology. Digital learning is learning facilitated by a combination of technology, content, and learning. The project will cover the following: distribution of broadband-enabled digital devices for all learners and teachers, a train-the-trainer module to develop the capacity of teachers and relevant implementers, development and provision of appropriate content for digital learning, establishment of a plant in Ghana to assemble and refurbish digital devices and relevant accessories for the project. The objectives and benefits of the National Digital Literacy Project is to anchor ICT into the delivery of teaching and learning in primary schools, provide relevant and appropriate ICT equipment to support the delivery of teaching and learning in primary schools, build the capacity of teachers, managers in the education value chain, and other stakeholders in the usage of ICT tools, develop and accredit relevant digitized content to enhance skills for the emerging fourth industrial revolution, championing all-inclusive access and fair distribution to ICT infrastructure across all basic schools in Ghana, establish a project which is both affordable and sustainable, promotion of research and development, supporting the creation of jobs through the production of digital content, refurbishment of devices, and assembly of devices locally. Now think about it. I had some figures here on enrollment in public schools. Currently, KG 1.279263 public enrolled in public. Primary enrollment is about 3.2 million, JHS 1.4 million, SHS 1.172 million, a total of 7,132,775 students, pupils are in the public sector in various, assuming every single one of them is getting a tablet, a laptop, or some sort of a device, you're suddenly releasing about 7 million devices over a certain period into the system. Sadly presents an opportunity for refurbishment of those devices, a local economy that deals with the replacement of screens, replacement of all sorts of hardware in the system. By March 2022, Hatchery Positivo BGH, in partnership with Positivo BGH, would have deployed an immersion exercise in primary and JHS and 28 special needs schools across Ghana. The proof of concept is establishing a smart lab in each school. Smart labs typically comprise one laptop for the teacher, 50 tablets, a content access device point, a local server, and a projector. It also comes with a STEM, a robotic kit, and a charging cabinet, which allows you to install all those devices, store them, charge them, and provide regular updates. Robust infrastructure is foundational in the deployment and scaling of education technology. Access to dedicated physical spaces, like the smart lab I spoke about, with tools, internet, electricity, grid and off-grid, remain a luxury for most schools in sub-Saharan Africa. Infrastructural needs also encompass intangibles such as data privacy, security, the responsible use of digital resources, not only in schools, but potential to raise and shape responsible digital citizens. Technology and infrastructure determine all the equipment required to support the National Digital Literacy Project. E-readiness assessment means that each public school for the use of ICT needs to be e-ready. Ideally, an e-ready school must have metered connection to either the national grid or solar power, secure and well-ventilated storage cabinets with adequate charging ports, flat and wide desks, enough for all the students, a dust-proof classroom, ample security for the devices with grilled doors and windows where they are stored, and at least 2 teachers trained per school. Teacher capacity. In a fast-paced environment, new knowledge and tools are constantly evolving, and teachers need to continually acquire new skills to guide students, inspire creativity, and ensure inclusive participation in the use of education technology solutions. Across the country, stakeholders agree that teacher competency is an integral component in the creation of a thriving learning environment and building strong relationships with students within the learning space. Therefore, it is essential to recognize that education technology is not intended to replace sharing and collaborating in the learning environment. However, dedicated training and professional development will rather equip teachers with multiple approaches to stimulate students' interest and attention to creatively make learning fun and productive by optimizing the unlimited possibilities technology presents. In Ghana, focusing on private primary schools, according to the Ghana National Council for Private Schools, a certain percentage, about 50–60% of private primary school teachers need to be retrained and certified. Structured hands-on training and retraining and certification for teachers are relevant to create blended learning opportunities for themselves and advance their professional development pathways. Therefore, collaboration among stakeholders, utilizing innovation hubs as spaces for experiential learning can lead to filling the identified gap in pursuing ICT for accelerated development. The train the trainer module for teachers in public schools will be deployed to build and enhance the capacity of teachers to deliver digital learning to pupils. Digital content, text, audio, videos, files, graphics, animations, images, academic material, are all required to enable pupils to learn. The NDLP will provide a framework for identification of approved educational content materials to be digitalized in a secure digital platform for learners. Ideally, the content is independent from the digital platform, is reliable, available, accessible, and secure. Let me touch briefly on the private sector. We've been working in the private sector, at least in the last few years. We adopted something we call the policy hackathon. That's our methodology. And the research and solutions we adopted was to look at a regional approach in communities with school owners, teachers, and administrators to understand the nuances and unique dynamics in the pilot regions, but also explore potential solutions that work locally with stakeholders. While the highlights captured in the hackathon may not fully reflect the needs of all regions in Ghana, the findings present insights for reflections and inform what strategies to prioritize in order to advance and embrace the adoption of technology to achieve quality, equity, inclusion, and sustainability. Private schools, the figures are in KG, 588,666, primary, 1,365,695 pupils enrolled. For JHS, 414,147, and for SHS, 76,561. A total of 2.445069 students enrolled in the private sector. Thematic areas that emerge from our research. Financing. Private primary schools have increased over the last few years. The growth was recorded in private schools against 6% growth in public schools at the junior high level. The poorest families in Ghana may spend up to 30% of their household income on private school costs, compared to 16% on public school costs. And even though government remains the major partner in education, the private sector actively plays a significant role in rural and urban areas across the country. EdTech, education technology, is a capital-intensive investment. The #1 inhibiting factor for school owners and administrators in the uptake of EdTech solutions is the cost associated with procuring and maintaining the desired physical and technological infrastructure to successfully introduce and run the right tech in the classrooms. Provision of incentives and flexible financing models to the private sector to ensure equitable access and promote innovation is extremely important. With the pressure on government revenue and spending, increased collaboration and partnerships with corporate institutions in the private sector and development partners can unlock innovative financing models to complement capital investment needs, tapping into vibrant networks, groups, communities, and cooperative models should be some strategies to consider in mobilizing local resources. Sustainability. In addition to real issues bordering intermittent power supply, storage and security of digital devices, costs and availability of local expertise to maintain worn-out devices are contextual realities beyond initial installation and deployment of technology. Environmental consciousness on responsible use of energy, disposal of components, financing recurring expenses and activities are practical and valid concerns worth addressing through the exploration of community-based resources to run and maintain optimal operational levels. Inclusion. According to WHO estimates, around 5 million people in Ghana live with some sort of disability, which is around a fifth of the population. Approximately 100,000 Ghanaian children aged 6 to 14 have a disability, and more than 16,000 of these children are out of school. Empowering students, teachers, schools, and parents are integral in creating a quality learning environment and availing opportunities for all. Student centricity, teacher involvement, and parent empowerment are interconnected perspectives to sustain the interest and continuous usage of education technologies more effectively. In a large-scale survey nearly 3/4 of respondents indicated that improved staff training and knowledge were the most important actions that could be taken to promote technology use in disabled learning environments and spaces. Assistive technology devices and services have to be coupled with context-appropriate instruction from trained teachers. As students' successful implementation of assistive technology is directly related to the knowledge, skills, and dispositions of special education teachers. Our relationship with the Spelling Bee recently saw us donate some tablets to the deaf and dumb school in Ashaman. There's another project we're working on in Nkranza. The national best farmer, I think it was 2019, Mr. James Boateng, has a farm. And on that farm, he's recruited about 100 settler families. These settler families have children who require education. The location of the farm to the nearest school is quite a distance. So what we're working with Mr. James Boateng to do is to set up an e-learning space on the farm. This is just to demonstrate that regardless of where you are, as long as the right investments are made, you can deploy technology anywhere. On the subject of special needs, access, equity, and inclusion, we have an initiative with the Boston institutions looking at training inmates. When they come out, they will have digital skills to be able to deploy. In the new education, Kathy Ann Davison talks about remaking institutions and classrooms by emphasizing creativity, collaboration, and adaptability, which happen to be the 21st century's most important survival tools. She envisions a future where iconoclasts break down the barriers between ossified fields of studies, multidisciplinary real-world problems, teaching students not just how to think, but how to learn, not just how to survive, but how to thrive in the complex and bewildering environments they may find themselves. Rethink crafting human capital, differentiated labor market for the unfolding age of the fourth industrial revolution. Globally, experts estimate that the market size of the education technology sector is valued at $75 billion and is expected to witness an annual growth rate of 19.9% over the next 6 years. Insights on Africa, according to the African Tech Startups Funding Report, highlights that African ed tech startups attracted 4.3% of investment on the continent, valued at $13.75 million. Despite the promising prospects of edtech in transforming education, notable difficulties implementing technology solutions in under-resourced schools and communities are linked to limited fiscal and technological infrastructure and inadequate tech-savvy teachers. The underlying barriers to the scalability of e-learning solutions across the continent account for investor doubt in funding edtech solutions. But innovative financing models, jointly by the private and public sectors, are needed to signal interest and scale investments in the sector. For decision makers, educators, and innovators, investing in education technology offers innovative and practical tools to generate real-time information at multiple levels to shape policy and organizational direction. In the spirit of leaving no one behind, introducing education technologies early in the classroom is an investment to decentralize knowledge, bridge the digital divide, and develop a pool of globally competitive and digital citizens, and not just passive content consumers. By learning from startups' agile, lean management approaches, and an embrace of continuous skills development
to be abreast with the latest technology and industry. Stakeholders can adopt and scale educational technologies and align the digitalization agenda to build a productive workforce. Our approach has always been to deliver solutions. New approach is to enhance the solutions offering by making it exclusive to join what we're calling the Education 4.0 project over the next 2 years. The shift is away from making devices the focus and rather center solutions on added value services and benefits to key stakeholders. In this case, the parent and the child, teachers, owners and head teachers, the various ministries of education, Ghana Education Service. The parent pays to get a child who is prepared to face the new world with training and pedagogy of Education 4.0. The teacher gets training to be able to deploy new learning and access to content. Teachers could also get extra income by providing after-school classes via online platforms. Owners and teachers, by providing these added value services, get to benefit from Education 4.0 accreditation and can charge premium fees for this. We're piloting 40 schools in the private sector next quarter to demonstrate the viability of this model. Various partners are Digital Skills Foundation, Bridge Park, One Laptop per Child, the Global Village for High School in the Coca Center in Lehigh, George Mason, Spelling Bee, the Pan-African Renaissance Program for Students, STEAM and STEM competitions, and special needs options. The schools of the future, defining new models of education, according to the World Economic Forum. The student and teacher of the future must have 8 critical characteristics in learning, content, and experiences. These learning, content, and experiences have been identified to define high-quality learning in the 4th Industrial Revolution, also known as Education 4.0. Number 1, global citizenship skills. Content must focus on building awareness about the wider world, sustainability, and playing an active role in the global community. 2, innovation and creativity skills. Content must foster skills that are required for innovation, including complex problem solving, analytical thinking, creativity, and systems analysis. 3, technology skills. Include content that is based on developing digital skills, including programming, digital responsibility, and the use of technology. 4, interpersonal skills. Content must focus on interpersonal emotional intelligence, including empathy, cooperation, negotiation, leadership, and social awareness. 5, personalized and self-paced learning. Move away from a system where learning is standardized to one based on the diverse individual needs of each learner and flexible enough to enable each learner to progress at their own pace. 6, accessible and inclusive learning. Move away from a system where learning is confined to those with access to school buildings to one in which everyone has access to learning and is therefore inclusive. 7, problem-based and collaborative learning. Move from process-based to project and problem-based content delivery, requiring peer collaboration and more closely mirroring the future of work. Lifelong and student-driven learning is the 8th skill. A system where learning and scaling decreases over one's lifespan to one where everyone continuously improves on existing skills and acquires new ones based on their individual needs. What is the role of DI in all of this? To facilitate these types of high-level conversations between stakeholders, engaging partners to support access to devices in challenging areas, foster collaboration between public-private partnerships, There was something I came across on a 1 million device challenge, and really facilitating a digital jobs policy in collaboration with various stakeholders. Now, the jobs of the future center around artificial intelligence, user experience, customer service, digital marketing, Internet of Things, robotics, and machine learning. If your curriculum, if your textbooks, if your mode of delivery or education is not considering some of these 8 critical skills that I've talked about, then it's important to revisit and have another look. Thank you very much.
The second question here is, I took from your presentation that technology can be employed when the right investments are made. But I want to find out whether the right investments are being made or are in process at the basic schools with the 0 to 5 catchment that you mentioned at the yardway. So if a strong foundation is set to be built, then it is from 0 to 5. I'm quoting you. Which is so I'm saying which is a preschool level. Now, at the preschool level, I feel a lot of things are not going on right there. Because if you want to assess and actually look at the progress of the children in the public school, there are a lot of question marks. And I want to find out from you. And so my first question, which I asked, I want to get a feedback.
Okay. Thank you very much. The National Digital Literacy Project is at what we call the proof of concept stage. By March 2022, we should have deployed in about 700 schools across the country. And it's basically a smart classroom or a smart lab. One school, one primary school, and one JHS in every district. It's a proof of concept. Once that proof of concept is complete, then you move on to scaling it across the country. So you should be seeing deployment happening from next year, January, through to March. So at least you can see what is happening in that space. Now, your second question is about investments in the primary basic level. In the public school system, yes, I mean, there's a challenge as far as investment is concerned. A lot of investment over the last few years I have seen has been in projects like Gallup. I'm seeing projects around investments in the free SHS and so on. I am not sure what sort of investments. I mean, the actors in education are many. There are all sorts of stakeholders, MasterCard Foundation, Lumina, all sorts operating at various levels in the education space. So I'm not sure what sort of investment. I can't answer the exact investment that has gone on in Ghana as far as primary school is concerned. Off the top of my head, I can talk about free SHS as visible. I can talk about a recent announcement of about 1.1 billion into, I always get it mixed up. What is $1 billion, 1 billion cedis into the TVET space? But as far as the primary space is concerned, I'm sure there's a lot more work that needs to be done.
What we are seeing all around the country, and for this project, we're going to run our items. There's no district we haven't been to. Typically, teacher training or teacher training in Ghana, you will be, or technically you're supposed to be exposed to some sort of technology in deploying your assignments, or you will be exposed to some sort of Word, Excel,
nobody goes through university or teacher training without some access or exposure to some basic technology. So from a pure basic level, yes, teachers have some sort of, but there are some that frankly do not have that kind of exposure, and they will require some training. Now, as soon as we start doing a deep dive, getting into 3D, AI, STEM, robotics, and so on, that requires additional training and support. So the project will look at addressing training at least 2 teachers per school. Now, the thinking behind the smart lab concept is, yes, managing investment, but the other thing is that just like, I'm not sure, yes, I know when we were in school, we could go to, when it was time for chemistry, you go to a chemistry lab. When it was time for physics, you go to a physics lab and so on. The end game or the end goal for the project is to make sure that every teacher is competent to deliver content using technology. So we go into the lab, or the smart lab, and I'm teaching history, for example. I should be able to pull content. If I'm talking about the pyramids, for example, a 3D model of a pyramid should be extracted to make the learning, to enriching the learning experience. Okay, if you came earlier, I think you saw the 3D model of anatomy, a brain being pulled out of a laptop earlier on in one of the videos that showed. So this is where we're going. From a teacher perspective, yes, there's lots of development and support that teachers need to be given. But it's a gradual project. I mean, and even talking about the devices, by the time you get to sorting out all 24,000 schools in the public sector, the useful life of a device is what, maximum 2-3 years. By the time you finish, maybe a 5-10 year, whatever, you come back to where you started, those devices may not necessarily be what you got. You got to start all over. So the investment required is huge, about $1 billion required to execute a project like this over the long term. But yes, without the teacher, the project is not going to be successful. Thank you.
Since I align with most of the proposals, projects being rolled out, and I believe that these projects are implemented the way you understand them, we will not be seeing a lot of issues we are seeing today in the not future. Unfortunately, you are not the implemented, so I may ask him the right question, which is the wrong question. But I was in 2008, I know one of my things was then before education. Point that Ministry of Education was very to what are the one-man companies.
Yeah.
I raised this issue about community ownership. Then, Barry led the team, we saw recipes. Another government came, same similar projects, digitizing, computerizing universities. Then I asked this question. Then I was not in the complete order with my knowledge. I asked the car that came to the town once in 2 weeks. And I've been in that community for years. I was doing my work, I was learning my work. I asked them, what is this beautiful and which the child is going? How is the parent? How is the student? How is the community going involved in this decision? There was no response. You know the elderly out within a year, back to center. Within 6 years, we have rolled out 2 or 3 similar investments. The only difference between what we said today, what we said, and what we said then, is that this one is something like this. It's a learning. So when I that, in order adapt to them, it's always the beginning of the end. It looks as if my experience is that we are more encouraged to procure. Procurement seems to be the first objective. So we think out to this, we do this, we leverage to do this. But then the outcomes don't end up with the end. I'll do that. Last year, September 7th last year, the Minister of Education launched an electronic called technology program. It was launched. Something launched is called something completed. It was launched on 7th of last year. And it's meant to accommodate our 10 million student residents, including basic schools, higher college. Even at 1 year's mind for hours. You spend about 7 million dollars in our school. One year, 1 month. And we were told that 7 million because a model is unique. It creates a room for the teacher, the parents, and the students to engage. Fantastic. My boy goes to a model meeting with one. You do a model in their school. What have we seen between them and now? We just finished conducting them. In fact, we are not going to report tomorrow. In 6 weeks, 97% of teachers are not aware of the model. The original is going to be long because of the unique feature of a teacher and a student and how to engage. 99% of teachers are aware of the model. Out of the students, 100%. And if you go to another platform, as of yesterday, when we were having our report, only 0.2% of students are there, and 0.7% of teachers. Not even 1%. 1 year. So ask yourself, what do you achieve? The system is still there and there's no content. So the problem is that we have very beneficial ideas. Now, what can we are setting our worst here. But the way we choose to implement this beautiful process, it's always the defining factor. So please, we are looking for a different approach to that. We spend, we invest, yes, we invest, but the result will not be there. I hope you are saying that our foundations, as a media, I don't think we trace everything in our success or we can do. But at the same time, let's also remember that the biggest challenge in our system is the equitable distribution of quality. Yes, quality. That is in every country. There's quality, that is in branches. So the challenge is how to equitably distribute this. If we are deploying here, mathematical, after I put an intervention, whether it's post-pandemic or whatever it is meant to augment what I do talk in the classroom. Latest on the years. We shouldn't implement these interventions and to bring the gap or the learning gap and end up widening the learning gap. Because as we see, I mean, there are 5,500 schools that are really good to be at that least. 5,500. We don't have 3.5 billion to meet them. We don't have the money. Okay? So, with all due respect, if you go and make the SSPTA in this country, if you go to Kenya in that, and go and learn about it, you are bringing the device, and you work like that, you don't have any. So the foundations are with them. So when we deploy this solution dimension, it will work in us, but it will end up punishing those who are already in these private businesses. And making them poor. So please, I think that we have to deploy the direction. We must also give some level of confidence, attention to basic foundational infrastructure. Well, we have to show about, I'm wondering where the solar is going to be. I'm wondering where the solar panels are going to be installed, and where the tablets are even going to be installed. Because in this school, they don't have a place to install their tablets. And I'm talking about 5,000.
Thank you very much. Yes, as I said, I've been around the country I have seen all sorts of schools in all sorts of states. And if you're deploying that kind of equipment, the value of that kind of equipment in the kind of state in which some of the schools are, a certain part of the intervention is to make sure that, and I talked earlier on in my talk about what an e-ready school is. There must be some basic investment that needs to go in to make sure that the room or the classroom or the lab is fit for purpose. So additional investments needs to be made in that area. I take your point about access, inclusion, and quality, and so on. Are we going to wait for everything perfect before we start? We have to start from somewhere and hopefully make sure that the interventions that we make, we're able to scale up. Now, the company that is, the outfit or company that is working with the ministry this time actually deployed that same digital literacy project in Rwanda. Yes, forget Kagame and how he gets things done. There's also an example in Kenya, digital literacy project, company Positivo BGH, you can look them up. With many years of deploying these things globally. So, yes, we're hoping for, or we believe we have a solution that works where, yes, I'm aware of Edmondo. There's an Udilo platform as well with about 3 million virtual titles. So long as you have even a smart YAM, you should be able to, access content. Now, I spoke briefly about the devices, and I have moved away really from just focusing on devices to looking at content. You look at everybody here, I'm not sure about the students, but everybody here has some sort of a device that they can receive content on. Can content be digitized in a certain format that is readily distributable so that even with a smart feature phone costing, say, $10, you should be able to receive content? I'll leave that hanging. So it's possible, depending on how it is structured. Yes, the stakeholders I mentioned were parents, teachers, school owners, headmasters, and so on and so forth. And if those are not empowered and supported, the project will fail. So there should be interventions there in supporting PTAs, for instance, to own these types of, so if it's a public-private partnership, a PTA is encouraged to donate, say, the building, or donate some feature of the lab, what keeps their interest there. And the monitoring and evaluation is also very important. The key thing about we invest in things and we leave them idle and not, monitoring and evaluating and using the kinds of recommendations that come through to effect change or improve the system. So all valid points you take and you mention, and I'll make sure I get them to the right quarters. You have direct access to them anyway. Thank you.
We'll take the last question from my left and your right, so please, yes.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel from TAS. And I still say that almost all my concerns have been answered, but I'll still go ahead and make my submission emphasis.
Okay.
On teacher preparedness.
Sorry, I didn't think.
Teacher preparedness.
Okay.
We all know that for any educational policy to succeed, to be successful, the role of the teacher cannot be underrated. Quite happy where I sit to have an opportunity to be introduced to this digitization-led literacy program. The first one was when the minister invited the stakeholders to the inauguration of this project. And over there, I got a better understanding of what the concepts of this national organization that university project means. Unfortunately, here again, but the question that brings in my head, in my mind, the teacher who is the main change agent. I can tell you without any empirical evidence, majority of them do not do what is entailed in this concept. And in your presentation, I heard you say the teacher will happen. But the question now is, how prepared is the teacher in terms of specialization, education, and then readiness through what we are doing right here, the stakeholders meeting. The second question has to do with the systematic training and timelines of implementation is also key and important. We do not want the situation where one teachers are just asked to the classroom and start. We have started a national digitalization training program where people have any idea about what it entails, what is involved, and that will begin a failure of the policy. It's a good policy, but let us open our eyes to the implementation strategies and process. There's like a plan you are speaking about it, but then the teacher see well informed and oriented what program will have for them. And the timeline as I mentioned, when.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I speak, there are 4 model schools that are being prepared. And to your point, the state of those schools were not fit for purpose. So then some investment had to be made to get them to the standard where you can actually deploy devices. So the plan or the approach is that when you identify the school, you identify 2 teachers per school. You train them to become what we call ambassadors of innovation. They become the master trainers for the particular school. So they receive all the training, the content and everything, and then train teachers in that school to also receive the kind of content that is required. I said earlier on that it was a proof of concept for 700 schools by March 2022. The devices are here, so active deployment will start sometime in January. And the teachers will be prepared for the schools that will be selected for the proof of concept. So we're just not dumping devices in those spaces. There is no way you can deliver this project without teachers. I agree. It's a central foundation of the whole project. Everything revolves around the teacher. When I was talking about the type of skills required, a pupil, yes, to understand, may be able to access content online and so on, but without a teacher, it's impossible for them to get a full complement of skills that we're talking about. So there is a plan. You will see as we go along the deployment happening, and you will get to engage with the teachers that have benefited from the intervention. Once the proof of concept is complete, then the actual rollout to other schools. But it's a systematic project. This is not a one-year project. It's over a period of time, about 5 years to cover all the schools. Thank you very much.
Let's put our hands together for our guest speaker. If you look at the program, you realize that the Deputy Minister for Education was supposed to have given us some address, but for some equally important engagement, he has delegated that role to Mr. Nana Jemfi Agabuo. He is Executive Director for Center for National Distance Learning and Open Schooling. He's here with us, and please let's receive him to give us the Minister's address.
Good morning. Madam Chairman and Mr. Chairman. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to students. My name is Nana Jemfi Ejabo. I am the Executive Director for CENDELOS, and that is the Center for Distance Learning and Open Schooling. I think our mandate is very clear, to regulate, package, and infuse ICT in education. And we started 2002 until now. We have been doing content creations, and we have been helping other agencies, bringing stakeholders together for us to all provide the equity we are looking for in education, as we are talking about today. I am here to speak or to read the speech on behalf of the Honorable Deputy Minister, Reverend Dr. Intim Fojuo. Just like the MC said, something equally important took me away, and I am here to replace them, you know. So anything after any Q&A, I'll be here to answer, especially my jurisdiction handle e-learning. Thank you. And I read the speech. Mr. Chairman, I found it a great pleasure to be part of the Danquah Institute quarterly lecture series on e-learning in Ghana. On behalf of the Honorable Minister for Education, Dr. Yao Seyed, we are profoundly grateful to the organizers for this invitation. Mr. Chairman, I do consider the theme for this lecture, e-learning in Ghana, Education 4.0, as a foundation for the fourth industrial revolution, as a very timely and relevant, considering the fact that for about 2 years of COVID-19 pandemic, many institutions in Ghana are experiencing a season of transition with regards to moving towards a sustainable process of digital learning and teaching at all levels. Our government is also embarking on a digitalization agenda in all sectors at the strategic and policy levels, and educational sector is no exception. The talk of e-learning draws our attention to the use of electronic applications and processes to learn. E-learning involves the country's approaches to teaching and learning through the internet for synchronous, asynchronous, or blended engagement. Learning in a contemporary education system is occurring in a connected world, hence the need for action on how these technological systems can be used to enhance teaching and learning in our institutions very effectively. Mr. Chairman, with emerging technologies and some difficulties associated with physical interactions in our educational systems, e-learning can provide comparable access and quality education to all. When practiced effectively, it can close the digital divide, since many institutions in Ghana are currently hooked onto the internet. Learning online helps to augment education and technology. Also enhances student-teacher interactions compared to physical engagements. With current demand for tertiary education as a result of increased senior high school enrollment, adoption of e-learning can increase access to tertiary education. E-learning can also present itself as a reliable source for accessing course materials and information to enhance the learning experience. Teachers at all levels can utilize a plethora of pedagogical resources and tools to engage learners reflectively and to think critically. Indeed, the internet has become a very useful tool or vehicle for learning and knowledge acquisition. Mr. Chairman, the growing demand for e-learning has evolved from using desktop computers to mobile devices from which learners can access courses anywhere and anytime. The future demand is directed towards micro and self-directed learning, personalized and adaptive learning, utilization of open educational resources, massive open online courses, and augmented reality, where learning is achieved through digital, visual elements for physical world experience. There is greater recognition for informal learning for skill development and enhanced workplace performance through digital learning experiences. Virtual schools are organized in the cloud, thus saving institutions from challenges associated with server acquisition and huge financial obligations. Government interventions to reimagine education in Ghana. Mr. Chairman, these reasons has formed the core basis for the President of the Republic through the able leadership of the Minister for Education, Honorable Dr. Yawose Duchum, to reimagine education in Ghana by placing technology as essential tool for the complete transformation of our dear country. The government is coming out with a number of initiatives with this agenda in mind. For instance, we are introducing Open University here in Ghana, and we are also going to adopt the study of STEM in our schools to educate Ghanaians on the various careers in STEM, as well as Ghanaian youth the platform to exhibit their innovative ideas and interventions and inventions. To prove the greater sense of urgency of this agenda, there is an ongoing construction of 11 STEM centers across the country at various stages of completion, and these schools are going to apply the smart school concept as it is practiced in Singapore and other developed countries. Now, the intervention of SENDLOS. This is where I am the CEO. SENDLOS, in addition to that, the Center for National Distance Learning, an agency under the Ministry of Education, charged with the mandate of fusing advanced technology in education, under the World Bank sponsored Secondary Education Improvement Project, SENDLOS developed what we call the iBox and the iCampus. And I will cease here to explain into details what the iBox and iCampus is. An iBox is an offline learning solution. It's a learning management system. When we say something is offline, it means it does not use anything, data, no connectivity. During the inception of me as the CEO of SENDLOS, I took a trip to all the schools that has benefited from the iBox to practically see how it's being used there. And I can guarantee you the iBox is helping a lot, especially in the remotest part of this country where internet is a problem. If you deploy one iBox in this room, it has educational contents. It works within 100 meters radius. Since I told you it's an offline, all it does is the iBox become a Wi-Fi system, and students within the catchment area can leverage on that iBox to study. We have interactive courses on there, we have quizzes, we have virtual labs, and we have audio visuals. One of the schools I was able to go, that was in Jima, in the Techiman areas. As I was walking to the school, I saw a student standing in front of one of the laboratories in front of the entrance. And he wasn't going in, but there was teaching going on, labs, works, and other stuff. So I asked him, why are you not going in? And quickly he said, I should look at a post at the front of the school. And it says, a breaker pays it all. It means if you go to the lab and you break any tube, you pay it all. Imagine the iBox and the virtual labs we have on it. That could solve it, and that student will get in without fear or anything. So the iBox is really working, and it's a locally manufactured system. It's a Ghanaian-owned system made by SENDLOS. The iCampus is an online version. That's the software of the iBox. That one, you need connectivity to be on there. So that are the two different things that SENDLOS has brought. So I continue to read. Implications to the national economy. These initiatives, the iBox and the iCampus, will enhance our educational system and produce more personnel who will aid our drive for technology-oriented industry, and they will also help shift the focus of our education from humanity-based to science-based in order to educate a population who will possess the relevant skills required in our fourth industrial evolution era in areas such as artificial intelligence, robotics, mechatronics, ICT, biomedical engineering, among others. Government is committed to make the narrative a reality through the education strategy plan that aims at changing the status quo of 40-60 science to humanity ratio to 60-40 science to humanity ratio by 2030. Science runs the world, and the youth are key to ensure its continued advancement. It is therefore pertinent for Ghana to adapt to this modern world of STEM education to enable our youth to compete on global scale. Conclusion. While concluding, I would like to point out that education technology is already part of our lives. When it comes to learning, it is difficult to find a part of our lives that technology hasn't influenced fundamentally. Educational technology is here for facilitating learning and improving academic performance. Education as a field has been massively and positively influenced by technology, and this influence will be given greater by 2030 according to researchers. Research by the World Economic Forum estimates that 65% of children entering primary school will find themselves in occupations that today do not exist. Technology has influenced how businesses are operating. Anyone nowadays can learn to code and therefore create a website or even his or her own business. There are also many online libraries that assist teachers and students with comprehensive reading materials. Teachers and lecturers are also given the opportunity to post their teaching materials online for their students to study. With the current rate of growth in technology sector, future educational technology is going to advance the quality of education and even the ways we teach and learn. The future of technology in education is about adapting to the fast-changing world, giving students an opportunity to choose their own way of learning, combining theory and practice, always considering the current demand on the job market. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that insightful speech on behalf of the minister and the bonus from your own unit. Because the minister is not here in person, if you have any question on e-learning, I'll take maximum 2 questions. Maximum 2 questions. Anything on e-learning that pertains to his immediate area of scope, I would admit that question. Otherwise, I would not take any question outside of that. Any question relating to e-learning, open distance learning, please, you can show up your hand and I would invite you to ask the question. Great, okay. So, fortunate or unfortunate, you don't have a question. Thank you very much once again. I would like to invite the Executive Director at this stage to acknowledge a few people and make her closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Hayford. I think time is fast spent, it's after 1, but I just want to acknowledge the presence of a few people. The representative from the ministry, thank you very much. Deans, directors, heads of departments, dear teachers, students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think this has been beyond our imagination. The enlightenment and amount of knowledge that we have gained here today on e-learning has been very, very good. The emphasis on technology driving teaching and learning that delivers exceptional moments to students has been emphasized, and it's now being concretized in our learning through Education 4.0. Preparing our youth to meet Africa's labor market demands so that they can contribute to economic and social development and to the transformation of our continent is ever so important. This closely aligns with the government of Ghana's vision of providing a digital Ghana committed to excellence and progressive development. A key pillar for sustaining the knowledge gained today therefore rests on all of us, and we should remain resolute in our commitment to embrace technology and change in order to produce graduates who are employable and to creatively encourage all to use e-learning to sustain opportunities and to stimulate economic growth and social transformation in our beloved country. That said, I still want to mention recognizable people who have taken time off their busy schedules to be with us today. Mr. Ibrahim Tanko, Executive Director of Star Ghana, thank you very much. Thank you to Mr. Paul Brachi Danquah, to Mr. Kofi Asari of EduWatch, to Professor Abuna Udru, the Director of the Marian Institute of Advanced Studies, Dr. Amabo Afuata, the Acting Head of Department of Distance Education here at University of Ghana, to the representative from the Conference of Heads of Assisted Schools, thank you. Coalition of Concerned Teachers, thank you. To the staff and students of the Presbyterian Boys Secondary School, thank you very much for coming to join us. To the staff and pupils of Adenta Community School, thank you. To the staff and pupils of University of Ghana Basic School, thank you very much. To the representatives of various tertiary institutions, Accra Technical College, to University of Ghana, to UPSA, to Valley View University, to the Accra College of Education. Because of COVID, we limited our numbers. We said strictly by invitation because we just wanted representatives. But we are hoping that in the future, we can actually widen the number of stakeholders and the people that we invite to further discussions. We also thank our speaker, Mr. Richard Enyim. You definitely do it, and you actually do it very well. Thank you for accepting to do this lecture. Richard was so gracious and committed. There's no day that we called him to change the plan that he would say, oh no, you just humbly and so nicely accept any change that we suggested. Richard, we are very, very grateful. Thank you for accepting to do this. We have noted, oh, you are giving us an invoice. We have noted your explicit role for Danquah Institute to play in this transformation. We humbly accept it, and we will do our best to deepen the conversation even further. And to all of you, thank you very much. God bless our homeland and continue to make it great and strong. And please stay safe and healthy. COVID is still real. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Martha Kwame. I am very honored to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the Danquah Institute. I will first of all thank the Almighty God for such a successful program. To our cherished speaker, we say well done and thank you for the We say well done and thank you for insightful lecture. I would like to thank all the organizers that put together this lovely program. Last but not the least, I thank you all, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, students and teachers and everybody present for your participation. The program has been a success because of all of you. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you very much and God bless you too.